My name is Keely Parrack, and I am the author of Morning Sunshine, which was illustrated by John Badgett. And here with me is
Kate Hosford. I have written a book called A Songbird Dreams of Singing, Poems About Sleeping Animals, written by me and illustrated by Jennifer M. Potter.
So we're here today to talk to you about our books. We would have been at the Bay Area Festival, which unfortunately we couldn't be. So we're here instead. So we're going to talk about our books, and we're going to share a little bit of our books first. And then we're going to talk about the process of how we got the ideas and how we wrote our books. And then we're going to finish up with some fun stuff at the end. So to start with, I'm going to tell you a little bit about this book. So Morning Sunshine is about nature from dawn, so just before you wake up. I don't know if you ever wake up super early and it's still dark and you can hear the birds singing because they're just waking up. And then this book finishes when the sun rises. So it's a very small amount of time, but there's a lot of things happening in it. So on one side of the book, on one side of the book, there is a haiku, and on the other side of the spread, there is some nonfiction about the haiku. So I'm going to read you just a tiny little bit, like a sneak peek of my book, so you can get a feeling for what it's about. Bird song fills the air, harmonies and melodies welcome in the dawn. Startled moths flutter, searching for safe places to rest before sunrise. You can see at the beginning it's very dark, and then every page it gets just a little bit lighter. Pop up, quiver ears, cottontails skitter scatter, leaping with delight. Silver paths crisscross, snails and slugs sliver away, seeking damp spaces. A flock of crows takes to the sky, black capes flapping, beaks cawing. And I'm going to end here. Silent in shadow, a shy-footed, flick-tailed deer steps into morning. Now over to Kate.
Thank you. That was so lovely. So my book is about animal sleep and about how animals sleep in very, very different ways. There are animals who sleep while they're floating on the ocean, animals who sleep upside down, animals who even sleep while they're flying. That was something that was only discovered in 2016. There are birds who can fall fully asleep and possibly even have a little dream while they're flying. So I'm going to read you a few of these poems. They're a little bit longer than Keely's haikus, so I'll read less of them, but I'll start with the whales. The mysterious sleep of mother whales. O mighty mothers of the sea, why do you slumber vertically? Your sleep is very short, it seems, but do you have gigantic dreams? How lovely drifting through the deep while also drifting off to sleep. O sleeping giants, tell us why so many of you face the sky, while others like to turn around and sleep with noses facing down. How lovely drifting through the deep while also drifting off to sleep. Majestic creatures down below, what other secrets do you know? Perhaps they're meant for you to keep while drifting off to sleep. So sperm whales sleep all together in a pod. All the whales here are female, and they sleep vertically. The ones who are sleeping with their noses down, when they're fully relaxed, will turn around and sleep with their noses facing up. So scientists believe that birds and mammals can all dream. So because whales are mammals, they are also capable of dreaming. You might ask yourselves, what do you think these giant whales are dreaming about? Mother otter gives advice to her pup. Sleeping otter, swirling sea, be careful not to float away. Hold my hand, stay close to me. Sleeping otter, swirling sea. This kelp so long and tangly will help you not to go astray. Sleeping otter, swirling sea, be careful not to float away. So otters sleep sometimes on land, but mostly on the sea. And as you can see here, they hold hands when they sleep so that they won't float away from each other. They can do this if it's a mother and a child, 2 children, or 2 adults. They also tend to wrap themselves in seaweed sometimes so that they also won't float away from each other. Oh, to be a chimpanzee. When the sun is shining brightly, she will swing from tree to tree, grasping at the branches tightly. Oh, to be a chimpanzee. A luscious fig or juicy flea she will find and share politely with a friend or 2 or 3. She'll build a nest for sleeping nightly, high where she won't have to flee from leopards who are stepping lightly. Oh, to be a chimpanzee. So chimps build a separate nest every night to sleep in. They use branches that they weave together, and then they take some of the softest leaves and make little pillows for themselves. But they never sleep in the same nest twice. And although they're social creatures, they always sleep alone unless they're nursing, in which case a baby might be with them as well. Okay.
That was so delightful, Kate. I have to say, just amazing. And I do wonder what would happen if you were diving or a diver and you came across a pod of sleeping whales. The imagery is just gorgeous.
Well, it's happened actually only occasionally, but yes, I've seen pictures online, and the size of the diver next to the size of these whales is just stunning. I mean, it must be the most incredible thing that could ever happen to anyone. Let's see. I wanted to ask you where you got the idea for your book, Keely.
So this is kind of funny. I was working on a novel and I'd sent a draft copy, like a rough copy of my novel to my editor. So I was like waiting and waiting. And in that waiting time, it's like I had time to stop and think and dream. And I spent a lot of time in my garden. And I think partially maybe it's because I'm from England. And so to me, California wildlife is quite fantastic with hummingbirds and different kinds of snakes and things. And so I really got to see all the different animals just in my yard and in the front yard. And I started writing haiku about them. And then I had so many haiku about all these amazing creatures that I thought I would write a book of dawn to dusk in the garden. And then I realized that that's such an immense period of time. And haikus are really, really tiny. They're only 3 lines. So I felt like maybe I should just do dawn to sunrise, because that's a small amount of time and enough small amount of time to fit in lots of small focuses on different animals or different things that nature was doing in that time. And that's how it all came together. How about your book? I mean, sleeping animals, how amazing.
Well, first of all, I just wanted to say that I love the fact that you zeroed in on that very small window of time, because so much does happen. I mean, I learned so much from reading your book. I love the fact that there are animals waking up, there are other animals going to sleep, there are all sorts of different things happening. And so I'm very happy you made that decision rather than, going for the much larger time frame. In my case, it was sort of something similar. I had set out to write a book about the octopus. I had read this amazing book by the naturalist and author Cy Montgomery called Soul of an Octopus. And I was so in love with this book. And I actually contacted her and asked her if I could meet the people that she had worked with at the Boston Aquarium. And she's such a lovely, generous person that she said to me, well, actually, I'm going to go to the Boston Aquarium next weekend. Why don't you just come with me? You can meet my namesake, Cy the Octopus. They had named an octopus after her there. So I went and I met Cy the Octopus and had her stick her tentacles all over my arms. And it was an incredible experience. So I went home just fully focused on writing this book about octopus poems. And they just weren't really coming. Like, I wrote some, but they just weren't that great. And in the process of writing about the octopus, I learned that octopuses change colors when they sleep and can possibly dream. So I thought, wow, that's sort of interesting. I didn't know that. What do other animals do when they sleep? And then I just did a very sort of superficial Google search, and, within 10 minutes learned, 10 things I hadn't known before. So then I just put the octopus poems aside and decided to write about sleeping animals instead.
They snuck up on you.
They did sneak up on me.
So once you decided that you were going to focus on sleeping animals instead, there's so many amazing animals that you've included. How did you decide how to structure your book and what order to put them in, and what kind of back matter, if any, that you wanted to include?
Well, let's see. So in terms of the research, I researched plenty of animals that aren't that interesting when they sleep. So they were sort of automatically eliminated. I also decided I was only going to do wild animals. The problem with researching how pets sleep is that it's kind of like, if an alien wanted to find out how we sleep and only observed us on an airplane, they wouldn't get very accurate information about how we sleep. And that's sort of how it is with pets. Let's face it, a lot of pets are a little bit bored and they're sleeping more than, and bored and safer than animals in the wild. Yeah. So I had limited things to animals in the wild. And then I had to decide on an order for the poems. And, I considered all sorts of different things. I considered categorizing them by the way when animals sleep, like having a nocturnal section and a diurnal section. Diurnal is for animals who are active during the day, as opposed to nocturnal animals who are active during the night. I'd considered taking animals from deep in the sea all the way up to land, trees, sky. I thought that might be sort of interesting. Yeah. And then I considered going from biggest animal to smallest, or smallest to biggest. And in the end, I went from biggest to smallest because it seemed to be in keeping with sleep, to have this sort of decrescendo where, I went from sperm whale to fire ant. But how about you when you were organizing your book? What were some of the considerations that you had to take into account?
So mine, I knew from the start it was just going to be, I wanted it to be animals that were really, that most children saw in their neighborhoods. But we wanted it to be very inclusive and make sure that there were animals in there for every child. So no matter if they lived in the city or the suburbs or the country. So one of the things we decided is we would go suburbs, city, country, suburbs, city, country. So you've got that level of stuff. Right. Then we decided that, so this is me and my editor talking, we decided that we didn't want like bird, insect. We wanted to kind of have bird, mammal, insect, like varied up. Right. So that you got different kind of energies. So that was two different things to consider. And then, because of the time frame from dawn to sunrise, you can't have the dawn chorus at sunrise. So everything that happens has to happen in the time order. So we had these three different things. So we ended up with this great big rubric graph of we can have this animal here and this animal here and this animal here. And it meant that some of the original haiku had to go, and I had to like go and research again and figure other ones to fit in. But it ultimately all came together, and we were like, phew, I never imagined that it was going to be like working on a giant jigsaw puzzle, but that's what it felt like at times. But that's how it came together.
I think picture books can be deceptively complicated that way. I mean, for the reader, probably that process isn't clear at all. You just, I mean, when I read your book, the flow of it is so nice. So I enjoy all your hard work. And as a fellow picture book author, I know that you've gone through a process like that. But for the, average reader, I think they sense that the flow is nice, but they probably aren't aware how complicated the process can be.
I feel like that for your book too, because I'm so happy your book came this morning. Yay. And I read through it. And I hadn't even realized it started with sperm whales and ended with fireflies. It's the kind of structure that you go back and go, oh, she chose to, do this. Right. It's really interesting.
And that was actually, I have to say, that part of the process was really fun. Like I liked being able to control that part of it.
Yeah.
Let's see. I didn't ask you about your title. Did that come to you easily, or did you have to decide between a few different ones?
So it was kind of funny because you can see it's Morning Sunshine. And when I was working on it, I called it Good Day Sunshine. And then we're like, we really probably can't call it Good Day Sunshine. But we wanted that kind of upbeat thing. So we went backwards and forwards with different ideas of like hello, sunshine, and different things. And in the end, we decided that morning sunshine is like something you might say to your kid, like morning sunshine. And there's something really like hopeful and upbeat and joyful about it. Yes. And that was definitely the kind of feel I wanted the book to have. So that's how the title came about. How about yours?
I really love that title.
Oh, thank you.
Well, let's see. I got my title. It's sort of a slight variation on a magazine article, I guess it was a newspaper article I read about a lab called the Daniel Margoliouth Lab at the University of Chicago, where they do lots of sleep research, particularly on zebra finches. And zebra finches are very special little birds because they actually rehearse, the young male zebra finches rehearse their songs while they dream.
It's so amazing.
It is so amazing. What they do is they add their own little trills and ornamentation, because when they wake up, they want to have the prettiest songs so that they can attract a female. So, once I read that, I thought, okay, that has to be the title of the poetry.
Such a gorgeous title. It just really, it's almost like a lullaby. It's just got such a lovely flow and rhythm to it.
Yeah, I'm happy with the title too. Thank you. Let's see. What about your research? You did such a lovely job on sort of distilling some very complicated information for kids down to, 5 or 6 sentences. I mean, I know from your haiku that you're already good at distilling beautiful images, but you were equally good at doing it with the prose. Do you want to talk about that?
Sure. It was really, it was really hard. I was just thinking to add on to your zebra finches. One of the facts, many, many amazing facts I learned, was that some songbirds have over 1,000 songs that they can sing.
I read that.
Just crazy. So I learned so much, and I so I knew what animals I was going to do. I wrote the haiku first, and then I researched. And how I ended up doing it was looking at the haiku, taking the haiku. So like for the haiku we just talked about, the birdsong haiku, I was like, okay, so birdsong fills the air. What questions in your mind does that bring? So like why are the birds singing? And they sing so many songs, so many harmonies and melodies. Like, how do they learn them all in? And are they welcoming in the dawn? Like, why exactly are they singing? So I tried to really narrow it down to answering the questions that the haiku raised,
right?
Which was really the only way to do it in the end. And then I did deep online searches, research. I was lucky enough to have really good friends. So Pamela Turner is one of my great friends, and she's a crow specialist. She does a lot of volunteering and helping to release, raise crows and release them back into the wildlife. So for a flock of crows, she and I had many conversations about crow behavior and how smart they were and all these different things. And then I worked with Lindsay Wildlife a lot, and the naturalist in Pleasanton was great and looked through my facts for me at the end. And we just had great conversations about very local wildlife and what kind of deer it might be that I'd seen and whether their coats really changed color that much from winter to autumn. I mean, with research, you can get so deep. It was great to be able to come back to, though, I just have this haiku to address and nothing else. It's so easy to get lost in research.
Yes, it is.
I mean, you must have found the same thing. How did you research yours?
Well, I started out by doing some internet research, and I just found that a lot of the facts I was finding on the internet just would end up not being true. So,
it's always disappointing.
Very quickly, I just realized I was going to have to go directly to the scientists. So, if I were researching, say, the sleep habits of a giraffe, I would just Google, giraffe expert, and I would find a list of scientists or research biologists specializing in giraffes, and I would, write to one of them. And in almost every case, these scientists were so incredible. They would write back within like 24 to 48 hours, and they were lovely, and they were willing to answer, multiple questions. I mean, I tried not to ask too many questions. And then I decided, I found a lovely, lovely scientist named Sophia Canavan at this Mark Goliash lab at the University of Chicago. And she actually helped me not only with the bird research, but with some overall research for the entire book. I have a note from the author at the beginning where I have to, summarize a lot of information about sleep. And sleep, it turned out, was a deceptively complicated topic. Yeah. I had no idea how complicated it was when I started. So yeah, I'm just looking at the list now of scientists. I mean, it was, everyone from, from the United Kingdom to Namibia to Germany, to all different states in the US. So that part was really fun.
Yeah, it sounds really cool. So I was going to say going on from that, because it sounds like all sorts of things came up that you didn't expect. So what was the biggest surprise, or some of the biggest surprises that you encountered while you were writing it or afterwards?
Well, I guess the first I touched on a little already, but just the generosity of the scientific community. They were actually so happy that someone was checking to get the facts right. Like sometimes people would say, "Thank you for checking to see if this is true." And so that was very lovely. Another surprise, I guess I also mentioned, was just how complicated sleep is. Yeah. And then the third was probably just once the artwork came in, I knew that Jennifer was going to be an incredible illustrator. So it wasn't a surprise when her work was so beautiful. But what was a little bit of a surprise was just like how much the art added to the lyricism of the poetry, where suddenly the book was just larger than the sum of its parts and sort of became its own thing. Yeah. What about for you? What were some of the things that surprised you?
Well, really, going off from what you just said, it's when you're writing a book, you write the book, and it's just words, and it's very boring. It's something like a blank piece. I mean, it's on the computer, but there's no pictures or anything. And then we chose Jumbo Jet, and I got some pictures, and I knew that he was going to be a great illustrator. But the designers at the publishing house came up with the square shape of the book, which I had no idea. And the designers are the one who did this beautiful design.
Yes.
And then together we worked on the font. And for me, it was actually getting the book in my hand and seeing everyone's work come together, and like creaking the spine and smelling the ink and seeing the end papers and feeling this thing that we all created together was really quite magical.
Yeah, there was another surprise for mine, which was that I don't know if you can tell from the cover, but the designer added gold leaf to the leaves. So I just love that there's this little shiny element. Mm-hmm. And to me, it kind of harks back to books from another era when I was, younger, and you would sometimes have the titles in gold, or they'd even be slightly embossed.
I have to admit, when it came this morning, I got it out and I was like, oh, shiny.
I know. We all love a little bit of bling, right?
Glitz.
Yes. Let's see. Do you want to talk at all about what you're working on now?
So I just finished, a little while ago, I finished writing an evening moonlight kind of to partner Morning Sunshine. So we're just seeing if that's gone out with my agent. And I actually write young adult novels. So I've just finished my third draft of a young adult novel. And then hopefully this week is going to be playing and writing some more picture books. I have a niece who lives in England, who I have not met. I mean, I've seen her, I've spoken to her, she's adorable. And her best friend is a cat called Chadwick, who's this stripy cat. And my little sister, her mom, says that she speaks meow more than any other language. She's Belgium and English. So I want to write some picture books for Rosalie and Chadwick stories for fun next week.
That's so... I already love it. Rosalie, the minute you said Chadwick, I thought, there's a picture book there. Oh my goodness, you have to.
Great name. Yeah. How about you?
Well, I just finished a poetry collection on interesting animal fathers, and I'm in the process of sort of shopping that around. And that was really interesting. It turns out a lot of the most involved fathers are actually fish and birds. They're not, only about 10% of all mammal fathers are actively involved. That was interesting. So I finished that, and now I'm working on another poetry collection about the ways in which animals behave in groups, the way they communicate and behave in groups. And I just never dreamed that I would sort of go so deeply into researching animals. I mean, we had some pets growing up. I was sort of mildly interested in animals, but I was never one of those people who just went crazy for animals. And now I can't stop learning about them. Like and every time I learn something, I'll think, why didn't I know that already? Like this.
I know. I feel like with anything really, it's like the more you find out and dig into things, the more you find out about things, the more you realize you don't know. And so the more you want to find out about things.
Right. One of the facts I loved in your book was this movement, let's see if I get it right, that a rabbit does where it jumps up and twists, and it's called a binky.
A binky. I love that fact. I love that wild rabbits and pet rabbits both do it.
I mean, right, because I guess the pet rabbit still has that in their DNA.
That
right?
instinct, yeah.
Whether they need to or
the
not.
instinct for joy.
And then another fact I love from your book was that over the course of a honeybee's lifetime, they might just make 1/12 of a teaspoon.
Yes, I know.
Do I have it right?
Yeah, you do. It's crazy.
Some sort of metaphor for life there for us. I haven't quite decided exactly what it means.
But it's something.
Yes, something there.
Well, I was going to say, it's been really lovely talking about our books together. I think, sadly, we are sort of coming to the end. So I just wanted to let everyone know that, so Morning Sunshine, I have a website, keelyparrack.com. And on that website, you can find fold up notebooks, nature notebooks that you can put your own observations in. It's just, you can download, it's just one sheet of paper. You fold it up, and there's how to make spiders and how to make snails, which are also in Kate's book, out of paper bags. And I know that, Kate, you have some excellent resources on your website too.
I do have some curriculum guides on my website. My website is just khosford.com, so it'll pop right up if you Google it. And I just wanted to hold up a few sleeping animals that I made. This is a little whale made out of a sock, since a lot of us are stuck at home. This is a very easy one to do. And then I also made a little sleeping bird. It's supposed to look a bit like the zebra finch. We have some pipe cleaner feet here, and just some feathers and felt. If you can't find these googly eyes, you could just draw in your own. And then I made a chimp who ended up looking, he seems to have lost an ear, but my one-eared chimp, which you can make also out of a sock. And then I just took some stockings to make the arms and the legs, which you can just kind of stick through like this. So if anyone is feeling ambitious and wants to make these or any other kind of sleeping animal and send me a picture, there's a contact page on my website. I'd love to see what you make.
Oh, I think I might do that this afternoon. And if anyone wants to fill their nature book up with observations and make haikus, there is a how-to haiku guide at the back of my book. So I have a contact thing on my website. I would love to see your haiku. Kate, it was so lovely talking to you.
Likewise,
from the opposite ends of the country.
Yes, I'm waving to you from Brooklyn. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. And waving to everyone from California. And take care and enjoy reading and stay safe. Wash your hands and hopefully meet you all soon.
That would be great. Bye-bye.
Bye.